In the late 1930s, Stalin's behavior bordered on insanity. And often, some sort of an insanity was considered the main reason for Great Terror. He was suspicious to the state of the paranoia. And this, of course, had some personal impact on the way the terror was organized, on the particular brutality of the assassinations, of the gruesome nature of the murders. But there were other reasons for the Great Terror, the reasons which were logical and rational. One of these reasons was the need for Stalin to create the new elite. I mentioned earlier Stalin's dissatisfaction with the old elite, the old guard. So the Great Terror resulted in the creation of a new elite. By 1940, 57% of regional party secretaries and secretaries of the Central Committee of Soviet Republics were 35 or younger. And ministers and directors, many of them were 40 or younger. These new elite, look at their faces. They are not agitated, they are not lively, but they are listening very carefully and very orderly. To me, this is a face of a new elite. The new elite was called nomenklatura. This is kind of a list of the highest positions in the country. This elite was loyal, and there was a reason for that. Their lifestyle was completely different from that of their predecessors. First of all, they had much higher salaries than the rest of the population. On top of the salaries, many got something which was called packet. It was the additional packet of money which arrived together with the salary. It was cash and it was not registered in any registries. They had chauffeur-driven cars. Here you see Stalin's car, but first of all he had several. And of course, not every Soviet official had such a luxurious car, but there were quite a number of cars which were foreign-made. Of course, the living conditions of the new elite were completely different. This is the apartment block on the bank of the Moskva River, which accommodated members of the Soviet elite in the 1930s. In the late 1930s, this is where family after family after family disappeared in Stalin's gulag. New inhabitants came, and just a few months later they disappeared into Stalin's prisons and camps as well. But the life in this apartment block was luxurious. The rooms were big, the ceilings were high, the flats had parquet floors, there were rooms for domestics, there were big windows, something that the previous generation did not see. This is another apartment block on the right, but it was built in 1938, so its inhabitants were a bit more lucky. Hotels, they were not just all the same hotels. There were elite hotels and non-elite hotels. This is the elite hotel Moskva in the 1930s. You could not just book in. You had to occupy a particular position in order to be able to check yourself into such a hotel. It was also luxurious. Again, parquet floors, pictures, paintings, rugs, marble. Generally speaking, the decoration was incredible. There were also special hospitals and clinics. This is the Central Committee clinic at the center of Moscow, built in the 1930s. It exists until now. Again, rugs, again, parquet floors, marble, the latest equipment, medical equipment, and of course the best doctors. There were special hospitals for the elite too. Of course, each ministry, each big factory could have their clinics too, but this was nothing compared to the clinics of the Central Committee or of the government. Another privilege that Soviet elite, the new Soviet elite, enjoyed was the country houses, dachas. This is Stalin's country house in Abkhazia. He had many of these country houses. This is Stalin's country house or dacha in Kuntsevo near Moscow. This one he enjoyed living in for the last 20 years of his life. There were also special sanatoria in the Crimea, in the Caucasus, anywhere in the warm areas of the Soviet Union, particularly around the Black Sea. Again, each factory or each ministry could have such a sanatorium, but the best belonged to the party and to the Soviet elite. Soviet society was, generally speaking, hierarchical, particularly at the top. Each promotion meant an incentive. Each promotion meant better access to books. You could buy books in special shops or by special order. You could get access to theater and cinema tickets. You could get access to easily getting railway tickets. You had special shops, special food stores, special dressmakers, vouchers to sanatoria, access to best hospitals, etc., etc. It was also not just what you personally were allowed to do, but also how much of your family was allowed. For example, could your wife use your car or not? And you yourself, could you have that car at any moment, or you could just ask for the car to be sent to take you to work? And of course, could your family use a clinic? Could your family go with you to the sanatorium? And so on. But all these incentives were not enough to secure, to guarantee loyalty. Fear was the center of loyalty. Stalin's unpredictability was a very powerful weapon. His anger, his rage could fall on anybody, any moment. And so the whole country, but particularly the elite, lived in fear. Every group, every institution. People were encouraged to report one another. And the crime could be anything. It could be a careless word, or a careless note, or a frozen potato taken from the collective farm field. But it could also be that during a meeting which denounced the enemies of the people, somebody did not denounce loudly or passionately or ardently enough. For no reason. People could be reported because somebody envied them, or the person was a rival, and people got suspicious. Nobody trusted anybody. But also, loyalty was provided by propaganda, overwhelming propaganda. People were exposed to propaganda from birth to death. Stalin was presented as genius in all of that. Why I say from birth? Because I do remember the words of a lullaby, which my mother sang to me. There is a man behind the Kremlin wall. The whole world knows him and loves him. Your joy and happiness are from him. Stalin is his great name. Every word Stalin uttered was learned by heart. And there was no alternative information. That was the only thing that people heard. The result, of course, was a monolithic, obedience and unthinkingly loyal society, or so it seemed. Here is a Soviet poster, beloved Stalin, the happiness of the people.